Okay, so I just want to make a really just quick video. Um, so of course this is an ancestry test that we're looking at for one of my people that I do work with. And what we can see about them is going to be their paternal and maternal genetic makeup and how it relates to them as a whole. That's step one. And I know you can see this differently from a region standpoint, but it's the same thing just broken down so you could see. That's going to be one. But one thing to note about when looking at the regions, you also need to go in and look at the chromosomes and how, they make up said regions because that's where they're getting the percentage of regions from. As you can see, when you click on Nigeria, it shows the chromosomes that show those regions, which gives us that 32% for this particular client. So that's going to be one. However, what we have to note about those regions, especially when we're looking at ancestry, and then we have another one that we can look at as well, um, which is going to be, and I'm going to start annotating, which is going to be, right here on chromosome 13, we have a segment, and that same follows here to 15. We also see that same mark here. We see that same mark here. And although it's very tiny, it's there. 10 looks to be full. We also have that same mark on 9. And then we have it up here on 1. And then we have a little tiny portion up here on 2. And then we have it there on 1. And then, coming back down, we have it there 16, there 17, 18, little tiny on 20. And I'm actually doing this full. I've only studied just, 13, 14, 15, the ones that I started with. But, as we go further, 21, we have that there. And, looking at 22 and looking at this. So we have all these different portions from ancestry that comes up as not a sign, not tested from the chromosome. Well, what does not tested mean as it relates to what they call region inheritance or regions? And it says some DNA are hard to read, mostly at the edges and very center. We can't be precise in those locations, so we don't test them for a region. So if you don't test it for a region, how could you come back and say that this is 100% of my region makeup? Look at how much was not tested. And this is by the 22 chromosomes. Look at all the marks on the screen that are not tested. So that's one. I am going to now clear those drawings for you. And then I am going to, I have the drawing still up on my side. So that was one. So now we're going to keep going because we know we still have some other segments up here. And now we have this on chromosome 1. We have it on chromosome 3. We have it on chromosome 5. We have it on chromosome 6. We have it on chromosome 7. I actually missed the portion for the first one. So 1 second. Let me bring that back. Where you see me circling now is another one that I missed. With the orange ones that we're doing, as you can see, the ones that we're doing now are red. So we have that on 11. And that's gonna be it. Okay, so now what does Ancestry say about the red marks for the chromosomes that you see on the screen? For that, it says when you have a very small amount of DNA for a region, less than 0.5%, we don't report that region. So first it was you don't test the region. Now it is you don't report that region. And the reason that they say they don't report is because it's not enough DNA evidence involved for them to confidently label it. But don't you think you should list that as a possibility? Because now when we come back over here and we look at the region inheritance, look at the red ones that you see on the screen. And then what I'm getting ready to do is I'm going to change the color overall. And I'm going to bring it back up. But this time I'm going to make everything green so that you can really see, how overall, that's not 100%. So we have something there missing, something there missing, something there missing, something there. Full, missing, missing, missing. There's that splice there. Missing, missing. Big chunk. And then we can just missing. Oh, I could have kept that going. And could have kept that going. And so now you're telling me that all these marks that you see on the screen that Ancestry, you were able to report 100%. You got to realize some of these were three. This was three back-to-back pairs of chromosomes. One was way up here. 22 was way down here. Well, down here. So you missed, that's not 100%. There's no way. So that's one. Two, I then brought my test over for this client to this screen, this company. I had them paid a little $10 fee to send it over. And so they did. And when they did that, they gave me the access. I got in, I looked, and I did the same thing. What about these chromosomes? Well, lo and behold, let's change the color of our markings. What mark are we going to use now? Let's do yellow. Lo and behold, on this one, kind of had the same thing going on. You got chromosome 1, 2 actually looks fuller, 3 looks fuller, 4 looks full, 5 looks full, 6 looks full, which we know we was missing 6 over there on Ancestry. 7 looks full, 8 looks full. Huge segment missing on 9 that we did not have over there on Ancestry. Noted. All right, 13, 14, 15. Well, we know we saw 13, 14, 15. Okay. So we know we saw that. In 21, 22. We know we saw that. 21, 22. And these are two different companies. So we do see some similarities and we do see some differences. All right. Now, there's one thing that also is going to stand out is going to be this less than 1% Asia. And if I can remember correctly, when I looked at this person, it's on chromosome 8. They have that on chromosome 8? Well, let's go back to Ancestry, because when we look at Ancestry's version of chromosome 8, we have, and I'm going to clear the drawings. So it's not Central Nigeria. We have Benin, Togo, Scotland, Senegal, the Netherlands, Benin, Togo, Scotland, Senegal. That makes up chromosome 8 over here. But chromosome 8 over here is made up of West Africa, Western Europe, that's again West Africa, Western Europe again. We have Central Africa, Western Siberia, West Africa, Western Europe, Horn of Africa, West Africa, and Central Africa. It is not the only one with Western Siberia. Chromosome 1 also has Western Siberia, and I think there's another one. But video's getting a little too longer than what I anticipated for. But in general, so we also know when we go over here and look again at chromosome 1, we have a segment that's not tested and 2 segments that are, that segment is unassigned, and 2 are not tested on each end of the chromosomes. So that is one. And then as I took that person's test over here, as I worked on it, and what stands out about them is I started asking questions about, well, tell me more about your family. The Western Siberia, it makes sense. But what I was able to find out is their family on their paternal and their maternal side, they both claim native ancestry, as well as they both say there is some, for the paternal side, I believe it was either Scottish or Irish ancestry. And whichever parent, so I think let me see. The maternal side had the Irish ancestry, the Irish native and Black ancestry. And the paternal side had the Scottish, native, and African ancestry. So when I see this and I see no Middle Age invader and I see Western Siberia, that kind of ties to a potential and points already to a potential of, hey, they may be telling the truth about that Native American. The farmer and hunter-gatherer kind of makes sense as we talk about the Irish and Scottish ancestry for that person's paternal and maternal lineage. And then, of course, the non-European, that's more than likely going to be, Africa. So you have that going on. And then from there, we're just going to go ahead and we're going to take this. And then what first thing that we're going to do is talk about, we're just going to use GEDmatch. And looking at this GEDmatch, they do have some tools. The tool that we're going to be looking at right now is just going to be admixture heritage, because that is all that these regions and what it say, it's just admixture. But what I do is, as we could see, is you can break down the admixture by chromosome. And so I'm just going to pick the basic one, MDLP. And then I'm going to enter in that kit number and do World 22. So when looking at, admixture World 22, what we're able to see is we still have 22 chromosomes. So you got 22 over here, you got 22 over here. And so again, this is all taken from this one test right here with Ancestry. And you can upload your test to all of these different tools. Some of them charge. This one is free. But what we can see is the dominant narrative is the sub-Saharan, which of course is going to be African. But what we start to see is there's some West Asian on chromosome 1. There's a South American, Amerindian percentage on chromosome 1 as well. There's an Indo-Iranian, Northeast European, you have South African, but you have these dominant. You have the Paleo-Siberian. So when I see Paleo-Siberian at 1.6% on chromosome 1, well, that would make sense why it says Western Siberia is less than 0.1%. But as we continue to work through the chromosomes and we start to look line by line, chromosome by chromosome, and even if we did just stay with Paleo-Siberian, we have 1.6%, then we have 0.2%. So now we got 1.8% when you look at chromosome 1 and chromosome 4. Then as we keep going, now we have 0.3% when we look at 1, 4, and 9. Then if we keep, which is 0.3, so now we're at 2.1%. As we keep going, you look at chromosome 1, 4, 9, 14. Now we're at 3.1%. And then as we keep going, now we got 0.6% coming in. So now we're at 3.7%. Now we got 1.3. So now we got a full 5% for Paleo-Siberian based on the chromosomal level. And so when we actually break it down and you run by the numbers from this tool, from the chromosome, this is how it gets 100%. So either you have it or you don't. If we were to stay with the South American Indian, we have 1.4, 1.8, that's 3.2, another 1.8. Now we're at a full 5%. Okay, now we got 6%. Now we got 7.8% when you look at that. You have the Arctic American Indian coming up. So when you combine all of these American Indians as well as the Paleo-Siberian, even down to Southeast Asian, where you have you have them coming in there, although small and not necessarily dominant, it doesn't mean that it negates or that's not the case. So you have to really take your time and do it. I mean, we could take this all the way across and just look at, and I guarantee we'll be at greater than 10% by the time we'll be at closer to more than 20% in just looking at those. And then you got North Siberian coming in. And for one of my chromosomes, which is going to be chromosome 20, I'll make sure I got this right. What the Atlantic, Mediterranean, Neolithic, that's the second dominance of chromosome 20 according to this test. So we got 68% sub-Saharan, which of course is that African ancestry coming in. But I admit you, the next strongest on that is gonna be Atlantic. I don't even know what that means, but So don't confuse dominance with fact. And then I'll run one more test. This one? No. That one is a good test. It helps you break down your African ancestry as well further as it relates to others. But again, you have to run a lot of tests before you do that one to double back and verify. I've done it and I've been able to identify for another one of my clients that they descend from specifically the Americas, although they do have, like this one, a lot of African heritage. What they were able to figure out is, gosh, what did I tell them? So they figured out that their great grandfather was not from the state that the family raised them up in. And then when they figured it out, they came to me and I took their DNA and I did some digging and they traced back to Clovis. And with them tracing back to the Clovis culture, it made sense. So for me, when they say like some areas, their ancestors from Estito Island, South Carolina. And they say, oh, they're African and Bahamas and Bohemian and all of that. I've actually found out Estito Island was Native American in the 1500s. So 1500s, up until they were around for maybe until maybe the 1700s, which is of course plus 1619. So you do have to look at stuff from that level, but we're gonna go to Dode Cab, and I think it's gonna be V9. No, that one. So even in looking at this one, um, what we are able to see is there's going to be at least 5% of Asian coming up. You have stronger than 10% coming up for Siberian. And where are these Asian components coming from? Because it's a lot of Asian components coming in that only is talked about here at less than 1% with Western Siberia, but none of that mentioned over here on Ancestry. Could it be because some of this is not tested and unassigned? Absolutely. Because this specific tool, it looks at your information as a whole. It does not, tie it to a percentage of what it feels or what it says, which is why Ancestry and 23andMe and Family Tree and all these other DNA tests are constantly having to continue to update their information. Ancestry itself is getting ready to go over a region update again. Because again, nothing is fact, nothing is pure. The other thing that I'm going to run for this person is going to be their archaic DNA matches. And in clicking there, archaic DNA matches, what I want to note is you have different segment thresholds. Clicking on the 6 centimorgan DNA threshold, and again, this is that same 22 chromosomes, 22 pairs of chromosomes that we're looking at. And when we look at 6, we only see one mark. Out of all this stuff listed, we only see one mark. Well, we see 2, but that's the heat map index. We only see one mark. So what that tells us about this specific person is gonna be box. It is on chromosome 15, and that points to East Bernadette, Germany, Neolithic Bronze Age. All right, so that was one. All right, now I'm going to take that same kit number and I am going to lower the segment threshold down to 2 centimorgans. And I'm going to click on match with ancient DNA. And what we're going to see is we still have that one East Bernadette. It's showing, of course, because as it gets smaller. But what we start to see is we have some new one. We have some Ireland coming in on chromosomes 7 and 8. Makes sense because didn't they say they have Irish ancestry. We have Switzerland coming in on chromosome 8. We again have Ireland coming in on now chromosome 1. We have Germany coming in on chromosome 1. And we have, who is this way down here? Looks like it's chromosome 8 with the Turkey. Looks like chromosome 12. We have early Anglo-Saxon. But we can see it's not necessarily noise because this is really spaced out, unlike what I'm getting ready to show you next. We have Stuttgart coming in. Looks like we got maybe 8 and 6. We have Luxembourg coming in. We have Clovis, Montana coming in, and that's on chromosome 5. And so just going down, we have Hungary. We have Siberia coming in. So there's a lot of, so we looked at another test and that say Siberia. We looked at FamilyTreeDNA, that say Siberia, but Ancestry don't say nothing about Siberia. We have Hungary again coming in, and then that's gonna be pretty much it. Then we take that same test and we go down to, I'm gonna just jump to 0.5 for that same kit, and you're gonna see that's still 0.2. Rerun that test. That's how I knew it wasn't doing right. But you see, this is way, way, way different. And that's at 0.7. So you can imagine if I went to 0.5. But this is a rather long video. I really did not intend to make it this long. But again, like I'm just gonna show you 0.5. Shoot, why not? But I'm more likely to trust 2 centimorgans than I am to trust this. So that is that. If you have any other questions, just let me know. I'll be glad, to do a deep dive for you. I'll tell you how to send me your thing on Ancestry so I can look at it. I have about, I think, 3 or 4 clients up here, so I will gladly help you. Please do not share this video with anyone. You by all means can talk about it, but please do not share this video.